Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Final Score. Today we're going to be talking about the NBA playoffs, and we're also going to be touching on some free agency.
Free agency and off-season moves, so
Yeah.
let's get into it. So starting off, the Suns have advanced. We've already seen past the Los Angeles Clippers to get to the NBA Finals, but we're going to be first discussing the Eastern Conference Finals that is ongoing with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks. Last night was a huge game for the Bucks without Giannis, and the Hawks were without Trey. But still, everyone really stepped up. I mean, I think you would have expected Middleton, Holiday, but really the guys that stood out was guys like Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis having career playoff nights.
Yeah, I think this series is going to be good. I think Trae Young, do you think he'll be back by the next game?
I think so, yeah. He was questionable for this game when Giannis was doubtful, so I think Trey will be back, but I'm not too sure about Giannis.
Yeah, and then if Trae Young's back and Giannis isn't, I would expect a Game 7. And hopefully we get both stars there.
Yeah, you never want to see guys injured, no matter your feelings towards the teams. As Knicks fans, I'm not a fan of Trey at all, but you want to see him play because he's really just formed into that villain role amazingly. He did it against the Knicks. He did it against the Sixers. Those are two really tough crowds to endure, especially going into your first playoffs. And now we fully got fans back, so I want to see Trey healthy and out there.
Yeah, and even though I can't stand him, he is really, really good and fun to watch.
It's pretty ridiculous what he's doing because, you look at guys like Luka, who some right now could even consider to be a top 5 player, but Luka's had 2 consecutive first-round exits. Trey, in his first playoff appearance, is a few games away from the NBA Finals. And yeah, the Hawks have a great supporting cast, and I think that was pretty evident in, that Game 3 matchup where they just beat the Bucks pretty bad. They put on a show, and that was without Trey, and that was a game that Giannis went down. Guys like Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, really going out there and making their name known. But still, Trey is on another level right now.
Yeah, I think the thing about this series, and the reason I think that the Hawks are going to win, is just because I think overall they're just better fit for the playoffs. Just because they just hit threes. And it's just so, as a Knicks fan, it was so annoying to watch them. These nobodies on their team just don't miss. Everybody hits their shots. And I think that's a little bit of a difference between the Bucks and the Hawks because the Bucks have players like Bobby Portis. Even though he played well, he's not always going to hit his shots.
That's the thing is, when you were watching the series against the Knicks and against the Sixers and now against the Bucks, if you've got Trey controlling the ball, that's where the defense attention immediately goes to. And then you have guys like Capella and DeAndre Hunter down in the paint. And then you look, on the wings and you have Kevin McWhirter and Bogdanovich. Or you might have Gallo in there.
And Bogdanovich is a stupidly good shooter.
He's ridiculous.
He's like Klay Thompson.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how well this roster is constructed. They threw a lot of money in the offseason. And I did expect them to be a 5 seed. And, it didn't really look like that was going to happen halfway into the season. Then they parted ways with Floyd Pierce. They brought in McMillan, who's done an unreal job. So the Hawks are having a fantastic season. I personally, though, I think if Giannis comes back, the Bucks are going to win.
The thing is, if Giannis comes back, I don't think he's going to come back healthy. So I think that if he comes back, it's going to be rushed and he's not going to play as well. So I'm going to take the Hawks here, even though I hate to say it. I
definitely could see, because you were just talking about the supporting cast that they have, and when you're looking at the Bucks, guys like Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis be a Hawks team without Trae Young by 11. And it's because they had such ridiculous games. But really what it's going to come down to is Middleton and Holiday if they can step up and be those guys. Because at the end of the game, they have to be those guys. Because the ball shouldn't be and can't be in Giannis' hands.
Yeah.
So if they really can step up and make that decision, even if Giannis is out there not fully healthy, he's still a decoy.
Well, it seems like so far this playoffs that Holiday is kind of playing terrible the entire game, and then once fourth quarter comes around, he'll go 3 for 4 in the fourth quarter and just score points where Giannis should be scoring, but he can't because if he touches the ball, they're just going to foul him.
Well, we saw that, and then Nets Holiday was, I think, 5 for 20 or something ridiculous. He was having a terrible game. Then in his final 3 minutes, he hit some clutch shots, and that was able to get him into the next round. But ultimately, I am going to be taking the Bucks if Giannis comes back, but I could definitely...
Who?
The Bucks.
Oh, okay.
If Giannis comes back, but I could definitely see the Hawks obviously winning it.
I'm going to take the Hawks. I just think, even though I hate to say it, I just think that they're better team, especially when both stars are out. I think that the Hawks have just a better. They obviously don't have someone quite as good as Middleton, but they just have their entire roster. It's just good.
They're a better built roster, and they're definitely better coached. I think Budenholzer is kind of showing that he's not the best coach. Well, it's kind of funny. I didn't even realize that he was the Atlanta coach when they were a pretty good team for a while.
Yeah.
So it's definitely some irony there, but I definitely think he's getting out coached big time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that should wrap up the Eastern Conference Finals. Now we're going to take a look at the Western Conference Finals that we've already seen played out. But hats off to the Clippers. I really do think they had a really incredible season, and to get this far without Kawhi is pretty admirable.
Yeah, I agree. Just the players just stepped up for the Clippers. Obviously, Paul George did a good job. Just kind of putting the team on his back without Kawhi. But then the players that I feel like are a little underappreciated are like Reggie Jackson.
Reggie put himself on the map and gave himself a huge contract for some team next year. Some team's going to pay big money for him, for big government.
Yeah.
As that's his nickname now. And yeah, he definitely had one of the best player performances in the entire league, I think, this year.
Yeah, I agree. Another Terrence Mann had a really good.
He had that 40-point outing.
Yeah. And they just had players that always stepped up. And I think that's really what it was about for them. It wasn't necessarily the whole team playing great. It's just every single game it seemed that someone stepped up to the moment. Whether it was PG, Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson, or Kawhi when he was healthy.
And Paul George, has had a lot of slander on his name. People love to slander him. I mean, I'm sure we've done it. If we go back and we look at our podcast when Pandemic P, hit the side of the backboard on his freeze. But he came back this season, and he did miss some key free throws. And that was really, really tough to watch. But he did have his best player performance of his career with a career high of, I think, 41. We put the team on his back. Without Kawhi, he stepped up and took that mantle, and I really think he had a great playoffs.
I agree. I just think he's a great player, but he doesn't have that much. He can't handle that much pressure.
He shouldn't be able to.
Right, yeah.
This team wasn't built for Paul George.
Right, so I think that's why they lost. He had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he tried his best, but he fell short to a really good Suns team. So
absolutely, and I think one more thing that this Clippers team showed is Ty Lue is a really, really good coach. I think this was a series to show that, or playoffs, I should say, to show that he can coach. The narrative kind of when he was on the Cavaliers was that he was just a yes man to LeBron, and I think that's going to be true of any coach. I mean, Frank Vogel is nothing special. But we've already seen Frank Vogel coach, so it's not going to be the same situation. He's just going to drop some plays, ultimately give LeBron what he wants, because that's what you should be doing. But now that it's Ty Lue, Kawhi's not as vocal as LeBron, Paul George is the number 2 guy, he really had an opportunity to work with these young guys and these vets. And, they were a few games away from the NBA Finals without their superstar players. So I really think Ty Lue proved a lot of people wrong.
I agree, including me.
Yeah, I've always thought he was just a yes man to LeBron, and I thought it was a really bad hire at first.
And one more person I just want to throw in just before we move on to the next topic. With the Clippers, we were talking about players that stepped up. And even though he didn't have his finest moment in the final game, but Pat Bev, he really did. He really did play super well. I mean, he played great on defense, and he hit a few daggers from, I think it was game 4 or maybe it was game 7 of the Mavs series, where he hit a dagger over Luka, and it's just plays like those really just give the whole team some energy. So
you're gonna love that guy if he's on your team. You're gonna hate him if you're going against him.
Hey, but he apologized.
He said it wasn't meant for you, but I don't know who it could have been meant for, because he literally, Chris Paul, I think, just walked by him, and he might have said one word, but other than that, he said nothing. And then Pat Beverly looked at him, stared him down, and then chased after him and pushed him to the ground. But that's kind of what the Clippers were built on. Other than their guys like Kawhi and PG,
they're all just fighting.
And you got guys like Marcus Morris, just guys who are going to go out there and play like that. And sometimes the emotions are going to get the best of you, when you realize you're on your way out and it's over. Especially a player like Pat Beverly is going to do something like that.
Yeah. Moving on, though, to the people who are in the finals, the Suns. A great playoff performance from them. Just to get it out of the way, people say the injured ring. I don't
Stop
think.
that.
Yeah,
Just stop that
it's
narrative.
stupid. Everybody had their fair share in injuries, including the Suns. They also got injured. Devin Booker broke his nose. Chris Paul was out for a few games. All the stars got injured. You see, LeBron was injured for a brief period of time. Davis is always injured. Kawhi got injured. Trae Young got injured. Giannis got injured. Kyrie got injured. It's just what happens. That's part of the game of basketball. It doesn't discredit rings. One thing I always saw. Nobody discredits.
The Mickey.
Nobody discredits Bill Russell
Oh yeah.
for
yeah.
beating 8 teams.
I know.
Like, it doesn't matter they won the finals. Last year, the Lakers won the finals.
You win. I really don't think there's any way around it. And I think with LeBron, that's a whole separate thing. But I think people are always going to try to dethrone him.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, if you win, you win. And I don't think you can be faulted for circumstances. People might say about this, oh, the Suns had such an easy path because of injuries. But you can't be at fault for that. You played better than your competition every single round. And whether we like it or not.
How is that the Suns' fault for other people getting injured?
AD was healthy for a few games. LeBron, I know these teams are like worn down and injured, but they still have their players out there. And if you're really going to fault them for this, then...
Yeah, it doesn't really matter in reality. You win the finals. You win the finals. I do think there's some sort of truth to saying some of the teams that didn't make it due to injury, like the Lakers, the Nets. I don't think you can fault them either. But you can't fault the Suns, and a victory is a victory. So we'll see if they can get the finals.
You can't. You just can't because they're winning.
Yeah.
So they're beating their competition no matter the circumstances, and that's what matters.
I wonder. So who do you think is gonna win the finals?
I'm gonna say Suns.
I agree.
I think if fully healthy Giannis was there, I might take the Bucks just because they are pretty well constructed with Giannis controls it the whole game, and then you look for Holiday or Middleton at the end who have to step up and they're the Robins, but at the end of the game they have to. They have to be Batman.
yeah.
But
I think the reason I'm going to take the Suns, and even if there was a fully healthy Giannis, I'd still take the Suns, is because the shot making ability between Devin Booker and Chris Paul is unbelievable. They're always on. Chris Paul dropped 41 and 0 turnovers.
He's one of 4 players, I think, to do that, and those 4 players went on to win the finals.
I think the Suns are gonna finally wrap one up. I think they're gonna get this one. Have they won a finals ever?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, that's.
I think they were close. When they had Barkley and he was the MVP, but obviously they were going up against Jordan. So, and this is not just huge for the Suns, but it's huge for Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Chris Paul's entire career has
16 years,
and now he's gonna. People might argue, who's the best player between Booker and CP3. Obviously, CP3 is better.
the leader.
But, he's going to win a ring. In my opinion, I think he can be, quote-unquote, the best player on that team. Because he's no doubt the leader.
Yeah, I think it's definitely... it's also insane that he's doing this. He really is such a valuable player. You see what he did with Shea and the Thunder. You saw what he did now with the Suns. He took a non-playoff team. They're in the finals, and they have a really good chance of beating the finals, especially with a banged-up Eastern Conference. So I think that the Suns are going to take this finals, and I don't necessarily think it's going to be too close.
I think it'll be close no matter what. If the Hawks get there, I think it'll be close, especially with a healthy Trae Young. If the Bucks get there with an injured Giannis, it might not be as close.
That's what I just don't know how. I don't know how healthy they're going to be. He hyperextended his knee. He's not going to come back 100%.
Oh yeah, but I do think if the Hawks get there, which I'm praying they don't, it's going to be a really competitive series because watching both these teams for the entire playoffs, not one team's going to get blown out, and
especially when you have Trae dropping 40 points a game.
Especially it's the finals. It's going to be extremely different. It's going to be extremely defensive. People might take advantage of Trae in the defensive end, but regardless, both these teams are going to go out, and it's going to be competitive, and it could easily be 6-7 games.
I think one thing that McMillan does really well on defense is that they seem so that it's harder to attack Trae because they kind of always have somebody backing Trae up.
Yeah.
So you can't really it's harder to attack Trae, but that's just really good coaching by McMillan there too.
Absolutely, he never really had the opportunity with the Pacers to get to this level that he's here at now. And I don't think people would have thought with this Hawks team who would have that opportunity, but he actually has a legitimate chance at a ring.
And what people were saying about Nate McMillan is that that's what he's going to do.
Mediocre.
He's going to get you to the playoffs and nothing more. But Ty Lue and McMillan seem to be proving people wrong.
Absolutely.
Because they're showing that, they actually can do more than Ty Lue being a yes man and Nate McMillan just bringing you to the playoffs.
Definitely. And then you have guys like Monty Williams, who's doing an unbelievable job in Phoenix, and Budenholzer, who's a laughing stock. Nah, I mean, he's an okay coach. I think he's mediocre, and I think if they had a better coach, then the Bucks would be a lot better off.
I agree.
Anything else you wanted to discuss, though, about the finals? Because I'm just going to make my pick. Regardless, Bucks, Hawks, I'm going to have Suns winning the finals.
I have Suns, too.
So then now we're going to be taking a look at some of the players who could potentially be leaving, whether it be in free agency or through a trade, and start off with some of the superstars who have been mentioned, mainly this guy right here, Damian Lillard.
Yeah. Obviously, reports he wants out. He doesn't think Portland's doing a good enough job building a contending team. So obviously there's a few rumors that have been sparked, whether it be with the Lakers, and they'd be giving up some of Schroeder,
Kuzma,
Tucker, picks, and then you're looking at the Knicks.
Knicks have more to offer. I think so. I think all their assets are way more valuable. If they want a Dame, they have the better package. But it comes down to Dame's going to go up, and he's not just going to give them one team. He's going to give them a list of a couple teams because no one just comes out and says, I want to go to the Lakers or I want to go to the Knicks.
But I think behind closed doors they do, though. You know what I mean?
They might, yeah.
So I think he's going to go where he wants to go, and I think it's going to be he's going to come out, and I think he's probably going to say the Lakers, the Nets, throw in some other teams, maybe the Mavericks.
I give it a likelihood of Knicks and Lakers so far above everyone else. I think Knicks, there's been a lot of rumors that RJ Barrett could be on the trade block, if it was a deal for Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal. And the Knicks have their eyes on other guys like Shea, so that just means RJ could be on his way out, which is pretty hard to talk about as a Knicks fan, because I do believe he has a lot of potential, but he would be the centerpiece. Yeah.
He would be the centerpiece in that deal, yeah.
And he, just because he's so young, I mean, he just turned 21, which means he was 19 and 20 in his first 2 years. He was the youngest player in the league last year, had a much better season. Still a lot to work through. Rick Pitino is coaching him up in Canada and saying how he's amazed with how far he's come. So that could definitely be something that the Blazers are interested in. I think as far as assets go, the Knicks have better. But like we said, ultimately, what usually happens is where does he want to go?
Right.
And I do think he's going to say Lakers. I think Knicks are going to be in that list. So Knicks are going to make an offer. But I'm going to predict he goes to the Lakers. But I only give it a 5% chance more than the Knicks.
Yeah, the thing for me is, if it wasn't for what I'm about to say here, I'd say that the Knicks have a much better chance than the Lakers. Because, let's be real here, the Knicks have more to offer.
Yeah.
It just comes down to, I don't know why Dame would ask to go to the Knicks when he wants to be a contender. And either way, let's be real here, we get Dame. Are we a contender? Sure. We're not going to win the finals. Because we're giving up all of our assets. It's going to be Dame, Julius, and that's it.
The way I see it is there's been players similar, like Chris Paul signed with the Suns. And if Chris Paul signed and said, I want to win a championship, we wouldn't have really thought he was being serious and we wouldn't have believed that. I didn't believe Jimmy when he said, why'd you go to South Beach? Because I believe I can win a championship. And he almost did. So maybe Dame does go to an outside team, not necessarily that the Knicks are an outside team, but he could go to a team like there where they do have a chance to win the finals, with Damian Lillard and Julius Randle after a breakout year. He could go to these other teams like the Celtics if they were willing to trade Jaylen Brown, or the Nets if they wanted to swap Kyrie. But ultimately, I really do believe you're going to go where you want to go, and I think he's going to say Lakers as his top team. And I would imagine, there's been a lot of reports that the Knicks are a destination, especially after this year, for not just stars, but superstars, and people are watching the Knicks. So I could see him going to the Knicks, but I am gonna say Lakers.
Me too. I'm gonna say my prediction is he goes to the Lakers. So. Yeah.
And then moving on to a huge superstar who got injured in the playoffs, Kawhi Leonard. I'm just gonna get this out of the way. And most of the guys we talk about here, the Knicks are gonna be a possibility, and that's not even just bias. They are a possibility always because they're New York and they're coming off of a very successful season. So just want to make sure that's known.
Right off the bat, I'm not a firm believer in Kawhi leaving. I wanted for a little bit. I was saying that maybe he is. I think he's gonna stay. I think that the only team that he would even consider going to is Miami.
I agree that would be a place he would consider. I'm also going to say the Mavericks. I think.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Mavericks and Heat. A report came out about 2 days ago that
And the Knicks.
that they are two teams interested in Kawhi.
I just think that.
And I think most likely is probably Clippers, followed by the Heat, and then the Mavericks.
I think it's interesting. I think it would be a poor decision for Kawhi to leave because you didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. He got injured. They didn't see what they could do. They did really well without him. I think it would be a disappointing move if he left, especially after he wasn't even on the bench with the team.
I think that's kind of something that people are starting to realize is Kawhi won in Toronto and left. And, he did for Toronto what no one really has done. So you can't fault him for leaving Toronto, but I think Kawhi as a teammate, there's bad blood in that Clippers locker room. I don't necessarily know if it's between him and Paul George, just him and the team, him and the coaching staff. But why in the playoffs are you not traveling with the team when you are able? You're sitting up in the booth, and I know Kawhi, his whole thing is he doesn't show emotion, but he's literally just sitting in the booth
With the mask on.
With the mask on, not talking to the players at all.
And he wasn't even getting excited when they won. He just gave it a soft little clap. But that is him though. So to an extent,
it's him as a player to be emotionless. But I feel like no matter who you are, you support your teammates.
I agree, but at the same time, that could be his support.
Yeah,
he's a weird guy.
Yeah, he definitely is. I mean, Kawhi is an entire family, and no one knew about it for until last week.
He's an entire family?
Yeah, he has kids. Yeah, exactly. We know nothing about Kawhi. He's the biggest question mark for a superstar in the league, and there's a huge question mark for him this offseason, but I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say Clippers 1, Heat 2, Mavericks 3, but I think him on the Mavericks would be absolutely lethal with Luka.
Oh my God, that'd be scary.
And just get the little unicorn princess out of there. So is that all you need to say about Kawhi?
Yeah, I think so.
And then we're going to be moving on to a guy who I don't think is going to leave, but there has been talks about it, Donovan Mitchell. I would be extremely shocked if he left.
Here's one thing. It's weird that D. Wade is worried about him leaving.
That's... Yeah, because it's kind of just his comparison as a player, but I agree. It's weird that he said that.
Well, it's because he has part ownership in the Jazz.
Yeah.
So, he knows something.
That's true.
He knows something about... He said he's worried about his loyalty to the team. So, there's might be something we don't know. Let's be honest, the Jazz shouldn't have lost that series to the Clippers.
I don't think we talked about this on our past podcast, but you're absolutely right because the Jazz had the Defensive Player of the Year, 3 All-Stars, a superstar in Donovan Mitchell, and a veteran point guard with Mike Conley, and then they had 2 Sixth Man of the Year candidates and the actual Sixth Man of the Year with Jordan Clarkson, and then you have guys like Bojan, and just so many great players on that team, and yet they didn't even force a Game 7. So I understand Donovan's frustration, but he should have done better too.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the something doesn't click there with first off, Rudy Gobert is not a second player.
I can't believe Rudy Gobert is an MVP voting. He's not that player. He's just not. He's a great player.
You're not that guy, though. You're not that guy. Yeah, I think.
Nah, I mean, he's Defense Player of the Year. He's a phenomenal player, but if Rudy Gobert was hoisting up that trophy, I'm turning off the TV.
Yeah.
And I'm not watching the NBA.
Yeah. I think should wrap it up because I think we both think.
I will say if he was to go one place, I would love to see him and Dame team up. But other than that, I think he's staying
I agree.
in Utah.
He's gonna come team up with Dame in New York.
So that should move us on to Bradley Beal.
Another time talking about the Knicks, baby.
He's been in trade rumors for 3 years. I don't know if it's gonna happen.
I don't think he's gonna move anywhere. I think him and Westbrook are both gonna stay put. I think there was rumors about RJ for Beal. Straight up.
Yeah.
There was rumors about RJ for Beal, and I just don't think it's gonna happen. Beal, I think he kind of does care a lot more about money than winning.
Yeah, I think there's some players out there like that.
I just want to get the bag.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really know how concerned. Obviously, when he's out there on the court, you're trying to win games. That's not what we're questioning, but some players, after such a long time period with a team, they realize they're not going to win there, and they want to go win a championship in some place like LA.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know if that's his mindset, so I'm going to predict he stays in Washington.
I agree. Next player is Kyrie, which obviously a lot of people are going to be shocked that we're talking about him because he hasn't been in too many trade rumors, but the one thing is that the Nets staff is a little upset with his...
As they should be.
With his break that he took mid-season. He took a pretty big break. But they're mad at that, and they're open to listening for rumors. I'm going to end this right now. Unless they traded for Dame, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Because, first off, KD signed with Kyrie. KD wants Kyrie as a teammate.
100%. I don't think he's leaving.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Although, I don't blame the Nets staff for being upset at him for leaving mid-season.
Yeah.
Because that just kind of messes with the whole chemistry of the team. They had chemistry problems as it is with an entirely new roster. And it just adds to that narrative of drama wherever Kyrie goes.
Yeah.
So that moves us into the new pandemic nickname to Ben Simmons.
Yep.
Who shot like 30% from the free throw line. Literally forgot how to shoot and doesn't even know shooting exists because you never see him attempt it.
Mm-hmm.
And, Sixers got bounced right before the conference finals. They obviously lost in the semifinals, and his name's in trades everywhere.
Yeah, I think one place that would actually be unbelievably scary if he went is Golden State.
Yeah, I was just about to say
Because
that.
I'll say one thing right now. They're going to win the finals easily if that happens. Because Ben Simmons, if he was surrounded by
shooters,
two of the best shooters of all time, then I think he'll be just fine. But I don't know who's going to want him other than Golden State. And because, let's be real here, Ben Simmons just had one of the most pathetic playoff performances.
He just doesn't look energetic out there. Like, he literally looks like he doesn't care about the game at all.
It just seems like all he wants to do is drive, and he doesn't have fun shooting. He has fun playing defense, and he has fun dunking, and that's it. He doesn't want to do anything really, and passing. He hates shooting the ball. But now, where it's good to hear that he's going to be switching to the right hand potentially.
Yeah, I think that's going to completely get rid of all his problems.
Yeah, that's not going to do anything.
Just like Jameis Winston's eye surgery is going to fix his interception problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ben Simmons is going to get traded. I think Philly's pretty fed up with him. I think Golden State would be a great destination. They've got a ton of assets, because they have 2 lottery picks, I think 7 and 14. They've got guys like James Wiseman, who wouldn't be part of that deal, I don't think. But then they have Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole. They have a ridiculous amount of assets. This was just a nice year for them to lay low. Mm-hmm. And if they could put together a deal for Ben Simmons, I agree. I think they'd probably win the finals.
For sure.
But other destinations, people have talked about the Knicks, although I really don't think that's going to happen. People have talked about the Celtics. I don't really see that. Some people have brought up a Kyrie Ben Simmons swap. That's just not going to happen. Ultimately, I do believe Golden State is probably the best option, but I think he is out of Philly. So wherever he ends up, good riddance. Anything else you want to say on Simmons?
No, that's it. Moving into our last player
that we just got news on.
We just got news.
Straight from the headquarters.
No. We just got rumored
that Chris Paul
is coming to the Knicks.
Is it his agent that fears he could come to the Knicks, or is it just some random NBA agent?
It says agents fear.
Oh.
So just people in general see Knicks as a possible landing spot for Chris Paul if the contract extension fails with the Suns, which it won't, probably because they're about to win the finals.
Chris Paul, the reason it could happen is Chris Paul said publicly that he was going to come to the Knicks last year if we had fans, which is a nice slap in the face for the Knicks.
Yeah.
But obviously they have fans now, so that interest could be there. It's very rare for a player to win the finals and then leave, especially building this with Devin Booker. I think it'd be pretty unsportsmanlike to do that to D-Book and Ayton and all those guys that they got down there. But Kawhi did it. CP3 could do it. He is the guy who loves the lights. I think he really would want to play in Madison Square Garden. I think he loves that environment, but I think he's going to stay in Phoenix because I think he has that loyalty to the Suns.
I agree.
So that should just about wrap up this podcast, unless there's anything else you wanted to get to.
That's it.
So we are going to we'll be talking about the NBA in another upcoming podcast, with the finals, when we look at the Bucks-Hawks outcome. And the NFL offseason we're also going to be discussing as well. Now this has been
Final score.